What if we could flip the script in the Dutch defense? That's right. In today's video, we reveal the most lethal opening traps that turn Black's setup into a ticking time bomb. Whether you're a beginner looking for quick wins or a seasoned chess lover preparing your next ambush, these traps will tilt the board in your favor, instantly. Watch closely. Your next victory might start right here. Welcome to the channel where your chess skills level up, one trap at a time. Trap 1. Ready to shock your opponent in just 4 moves? Here's how we can obliterate the Dutch defense before Black even settles in. We begin with pawn to d4, the classic queen's pawn opening. Black responds with pawn to f5, entering the Dutch defense. But now, we strike with pawn to e4, an aggressive gambit that invites chaos. Black accepts the challenge, playing pawn to g6, hoping to build a solid kingside. But we're not done. Pawn takes f5, cracking open Black's kingside structure. And when Black recaptures with pawn to f5, it's already too late. We bring the queen to h5. Checkmate. Game over in just 4 moves. Simple, brutal, beautiful. Trap 2. Let's unleash a devastating trap against the Dutch defense, full of chaos, sacrifice, and a stunning checkmate at the end. We begin with pawn to d4. Black responds with pawn to f5, entering the Dutch defense. Now we play pawn to g4, offering a bold and dangerous pawn. Black accepts and takes it. We calmly continue with pawn to h3, tempting Black to hold that pawn. Black develops the knight to f6. We strike immediately. Pawn takes back on g4. Black's knight captures our pawn on g4, feeling confident. But confidence is a trap. We now slide our queen to d3, eyeing the kingside. Black retreats the knight back to f6. Now comes the twist. We sacrifice the rook by moving it to h7. If Black captures with the rook, it's already too late. We bring the queen to g6, and it's checkmate. But wait, if instead Black had captured our rook with the knight, we still play queen to g6. Checkmate again. This trap is beautiful, deadly, and forces your opponent to collapse in just 7 moves. Trap 3. Looking to crush the Dutch defense with active piece play and a brutal kingside assault? Here's a trap that starts quiet, but ends in total disaster for Black. We begin with pawn to d4. Black responds with pawn to f5, entering the Dutch. We develop our knight to c3, keeping control of the center. Black brings out the knight to f6. Now we play bishop to g5, targeting that knight early. Black tries to chase us away with pawn to h6, but we don't retreat. We capture the knight on f6, and Black takes back with the pawn, opening their own king's defenses. Now it's time for fireworks. We strike with pawn to e4, opening the center. Black develops the bishop to b4, pinning our knight. But we don't care. We bring our queen to h5 with a check. The king is forced to step to f8. Now we play bishop to c4, aiming right at the weakened kingside. Black tries to defend with queen to e7. We calmly develop the other knight, bringing it to e2. Black falls for the bait and plays pawn takes e4. And now, the killer blow. We jump our knight to f4, threatening knight to g6, and forking Black's king, queen, and rook. Black is completely overwhelmed. Our queen, both bishops and knights are swarming in. One mistake, and it's checkmate. This is how you turn subtle pressure into a brutal attack. Dutch defense demolished. Trap 4. Here's a savage trap in the Dutch defense that punishes early aggression with a picture-perfect checkmate. We begin with pawn to d4. Black replies with pawn to f5. The Dutch defense is on the board. We immediately go for bishop to g5, pinning possibilities in mind. Black tries to kick us away with pawn to h6, so we reposition, bishop to f4, staying active. Now Black gets bold, pawn to g5, trying to trap our bishop. We calmly slide back to g3, and then Black pushes pawn to f4, trying to cage our bishop completely. But we're ready. We strike with pawn to e3, looking to break open the center. Black gets overconfident and plays pawn to h5. We quietly continue with bishop to d3, eyeing the king side. Now comes a mistake. Black plays rook to h6, hoping to defend, but it's already too late. We capture the pawn on h5 with our queen, sacrificing it. Black takes the queen with the rook, and now, boom, bishop to g6. Checkmate. The Dutch defense just walked into its own trap. Patient play, subtle setup, devastating finish. Trap 5. Here's how we flip the Dutch defense into a total disaster and walk away with a winning position and a free rook. We begin with pawn to d4. Black replies with pawn to f5, going Dutch. We strike immediately with pawn to e4, offering a bold gambit. Black accepts and takes the pawn. Now we bring out our knight to c3, putting pressure on that loose center. Black develops the knight to f6. Next comes bishop to g5, eyeing that knight and preparing a nasty surprise. Black tries to push us back with pawn to h6. We capture the knight on f6, and Black recaptures with the pawn, exposing their king. Now we bring our queen to h5. Check. Black is forced to move the king to e7. We develop the bishop to c4, aiming directly at the exposed king. Black tries to block with queen to e8, but we're not done. We bring the other knight to d5 with tempo. Black retreats the king to d8, and now it's time. We capture the queen on e8 with our queen. Black is forced to take back with the king, and we finish with knight to c7, forking the king and the rook. We've won material, wrecked Black's position, and left them helpless, all in just 10 moves. This is how you punish the Dutch defense with precision and power. Trap 6. Here's a clever trap that turns the Dutch defense into a tactical nightmare, ending with a surprise check that cracks Black wide open. We start with pawn to d4. Black replies with pawn to f5, the Dutch defense. Now we play bishop to g5, pinning possibilities and tension on the board. Black responds with pawn to c6, trying to build a solid structure. We develop knight to c3. Black plays pawn to d5, fighting for the center. We strike with pawn to e4, offering a central trade. Black accepts and takes the pawn. Now we drop bishop to c4, aiming straight at the king side. Black plays pawn to g6, preparing to fianchetto. We push pawn to f3, ramping up pressure on the center. Black develops bishop to g7. We now take the central pawn with our pawn. Black gets greedy and captures our bishop with theirs. We immediately bring the queen to the queenside, targeting that exposed diagonal. Black retreats the bishop to safety, thinking the danger is over. But it's not. We play bishop to f7, delivering a stunning check and tearing open the king's position. We're going to win Black's queen on the next move. With just a few natural moves, Black walks right into chaos. This is how you turn development and pressure into pure tactics and punish the Dutch defense with style. Enjoyed these sneaky Dutch defense traps for White? Then smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a chance to strike early. Drop a comment below. Tell us which trap worked for you or which one surprised you most. Love the content and want to support the channel? Consider joining as a channel member or sending a super thanks. Every bit helps us bring more epic chess content your way. Until next time, remember, the best players don't wait for opponents to make mistakes. They force them.